Yeah, good evening, and thank you for having me once again this evening. My great pleasure joining you. I believe that what the EU doing at the moment as a collective bargain or a collective interest protection is very much necessary because there is a very huge need for the EU to protect its territorial entity and also to ensure that the fallout from Ukraine does not trickle down to some other neighboring European smaller countries that are members of the EU, and as such escalating a wider European conflict between Europe and Russia. I think Russia will not take it lightly, but then Russia will have, there's need to put a lot of pressure, psychological pressure, economic pressure, social pressure, political pressure, and Vladimir Putin to be able to get him to come to some a kind of a level of understanding in which he has to begin to make some reasonable and reliable concessions in terms of the ongoing peace negotiation, which Mr. President Donald Trump has initiated. The EU have to do everything possible to ensure that Ukraine is not traded away to Russia in an easy negotiation process.
Right.
One of the principles or one of the rules of diplomacy is the issue of respect and courtesy. There is need to respect each other's territorial entity. There's need to respect each other's national sovereignty. There's need to also play the rules in courtesy. In the sense that there is no need to underestimate the capabilities and the capacity and the capability of the Ukraine people by Russia or the American intervention, or also looking at that from the European point of view. They are kind of suspicious that the way things are being drawn by Donald Trump, there's likely that the Ukrainian might end up being the greatest losers, even though peace may be achieved relatively on the short run. They see a long-run challenge or disadvantage in the ongoing discussion. I think with the donation of the $3.5 billion is just to put a strain on Vladimir Putin and Russia, because at the moment they are struggling with their economy, and they will not be able to meet up with the kind of military investment which the EU is trying to invest in Ukraine to improve their military warfare, their military capability, and so on.
Mr. Azu, I mean, President Zelensky is pushing for a united front against Russia, but what are the potential pitfalls of this approach? Could it lead to further engagement in the conflict?
I think, like I said, it's all about psychology. They say politics is war without weapon, and there is war in its real sense of it comes with the notion that you must engage yourself in a weaponry motion in real war. But what the Europeans are unity and collective approach in terms of using psychological and process to engage on the media front and also at the table of negotiation is to see how they can use this as a point of weakening the bargaining end of Vladimir Putin and his Russian colleagues in regards to the expectations of the European countries or the EU as a group.
Right.
I don't see it leading to a much wider conflict, but I think it will help to reduce the aggressiveness of Vladimir Putin and his warlords against Ukraine and other neighboring territories within the
right.
Yeah.
The U.S. has been a key player in supporting Ukraine, I mean, with the past administration of Joe Biden. But what's the likelihood of seeing more direct involvement from the U.S. military this time? And would that even ever happen in this timeline? Would it be a game changer in the conflict?
I don't think Donald Trump will be very much keen to allow foot on the ground in Ukraine or in Russia, either of the conflicting boundaries of the conflict zones, because any attempt by the Americans to put foot on the ground would kind of infiltrate the situation at the moment. All that I know and I kind of understand, knowing the kind of political personality that Donald Trump is, as a realist and someone who believes in transactional governance, I believe he is going to use every means of economic and political sticks to negotiate properly with Vladimir Putin, who he has a very good business relationship with, and also to pressurize the president of Ukraine to come to an understanding with what is duly reasonable enough for both Ukraine himself and the Russian counterparts, and for the greater good of Europe. I don't think any attempt by Trump, which I believe he won't, even though one of the principles of the Republicans is force by every nature, any attempt to threaten a friend of the United States is an attempt to threaten the United States, and as such they come with force to protect that interest. But I don't think that at this moment, reading from Donald Trump's body languages and his expressions, he wants to use his skills. His skills of negotiation. He wants to use his ability to transact equitable outcome in terms of negotiation between a bilateral relationship rather than a multilateral arrangement, which is why many of these Europeans and the Chinese and the rest countries are finding it difficult to find a better way of dealing with Trump, because he doesn't. He's someone that doesn't believe in a multilateral arrangement, doesn't believe in a group roundtable discussions. He wants to deal with people on one-to-one, face-to-face, and make his case clear and make his demand clear, and expect the other party to also come to the table with a very good impression of what he or she wants to put before him at the table of discussion. So I think he will not encourage, and I believe he will not be drawn into that situation where he will now demand foot on the ground by the American soldiers to be
Mr. Godson.
Part of that.
Mr. Godson Azu, we're out of time here, but I want to say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us to give us a bit of insight on the third year anniversary of the Russian invasion of the Ukraine war and all that's happening for the summit today. Once again, thank you.